Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House, and wait, what? Oh, yes, I guess that is another restoration house. Well, what do you know? We were just driving down the road as we were running errands, and we ran across this, and thought we ought to just snap a quick picture of it for you guys. I thought you'd enjoy it.
We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Today's program is sponsored by the generous support of our patrons. Your support helps to further our historic preservation efforts. For more information, visit patreon.com/1834 Restoration House. Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House.
It's a perfect day for working because it's overcast, it's warm, but it's not blazing sun. So we're going to take advantage of it and do some more bricklaying. We were over at the local lumber yard a few minutes ago picking up more mortar. So I'm helping the guy pick it up off the pallet and load it in the car. And I picked up one of these sacks and I thought, man, this thing feels lighter than it should. And I looked down, my whole front side was completely covered in mortar dust. The sack had ruptured apparently, and I didn't know it when I picked it up. So anyway, just dusted myself off, chose another sack, and we're now good to go. Oh, hey everybody. It's a great day here in South Carolina. Spring is here. We're not quite into summer yet, but it is sure a nice day. We have partly cloudy skies, which means that sometimes we get away from the sunshine, which makes for some really nice bricklaying conditions. All morning I've been out here just laying the second course of brick. I'm not sure if you can see it there behind me, but there it is. Now with the second course here, we've been trying to get the rows just to be a little bit straighter and the elevation just to be a little more level. We were basically following the ground and the concrete that we'd poured in there, and it just wasn't quite as square as we hoped it would be. But we press on. Once we get above ground level, we can start using strings and levels and maybe even a little bit of laser. And there's nothing quite like a laser leveled line of bricks. There we go. I think that looks all right. This side right here will be visible, or I should say it's starting to become visible, and so I have to make sure that I strike off the excess mortar that squeezes out. Okay, so let's take a brick. We'll go ahead and butter it up. Push it down in place. Get everything lined up the way we think it ought to be. Tap it down. Scrape off the excess. Now we're wasting a lot of mortar here because it's below soil and I can't really tool it up properly. Once I get above the soil line, I can use the trowel to pick up the excess mortar, scrape it off, throw it back in the tub, and we won't use quite so much. Fortunately, it's not very expensive. But we found out this morning, we had a little bit of sticker shock. We went to buy new mortar. The guy gave us, it was basically just bags of cement, pure cement. And we didn't realize it until we got out to the loading area, and the guy at the forklift, he says, "Are you sure this is what you want?" And I said, "Well, I think so. Why?" He says, "Are you putting sand in it?" I said, "No." He says, "They sold you the wrong stuff. You need to go back in there and ask for the premix." Okay. So we went back in there, and I think the $11 bag became a $3 bag. So anyway, carrying on. I'm just periodically scraping it down to make sure that I don't leave any mortar behind. It's also good to just kind of stir it up once in a while just to keep it going. If you let it sit too long, it starts setting up. And we're not quite done with it, so We don't want it setting up on us. Okay, that feels a lot better. Go ahead and put a splat down there. Do a chevron shape. I think I'm going to add a little more right there. Butter it up. Put it in place. Push it down in position. And tap it in exactly how we want it. I find it miraculous that you can take something this hard and this smooth and bond them together with cement, sand, and water. It's a miracle. All right, so I've got a problem going on right here. The mortar is actually starting to stiffen up because it's a little bit old. I've been running with it probably for 20 minutes or so. So what I need to do is get some water over here and then put a little bit in and reactivate the mortar. So the way you can tell is it starts getting crumbly and doesn't feel like a paste. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit, just a little bit, not much. Go ahead and gather it up and just start working it. Work that water down into it and make sure that it mixes up thoroughly. Now the danger with this stuff is if you put too much water in, and it's real easy to do. Once that happens, it turns into a soup and you can't get it back.
Our first layer was not only wavy this way, but wavy this way as well. But that's okay, it's underground, it's not gonna be seen. This second layer is a lot straighter and it's a lot more level, but it's not perfect yet. And that's still okay because it's going to be, well, as you can see, it's just barely below ground. The layer we put on after that is gonna matter. So that one, we'll get some strings and we'll get some lasers and we'll get everything lined up, and the next layer will be important to get right. Mike is shoveling all this soil off of the outer section because we need to be able to put the laser down without interruption to go over the whole ground in order to make sure both sides of the bricks are level. Can't shoot a laser through the mountain and see on the other side without it being a very powerful laser. We can't get the tractor in here and angled every which way without putting all the soil into the bricks and scooting it everywhere. So we're having to do it the hard way.
I had big plans for today. I was going to take this laser, clamp it onto the tractor bucket, and then strike a laser line across here so I could lay string to help guide me as I'm laying bricks and have a nice accurate line. The only problem is this laser here, which is a professional laser, doesn't have enough power to be seen in pure daylight. It'll still work, but we're going to have to do this after dark, I'm afraid, or at least when the light is a lot lower. We bought this way back in New York because we were planning on trying to level up the floors from the basement. This is the first time we used it and we didn't really realize it's an indoor laser. So anyway, that's it. So here's what we're going to do next. We have 2 courses of brick laid. I'm going to go ahead and lay a 3rd course, and that will bring the bricks above the soil line. Once we have that done, we can start laying bubble levels across there and see where it's at. And we'll have a much easier time of trying to calibrate this and get those bricks straightened out. They're just a little bit crooked. That's okay, because we still have a lot of time to correct it. Well, the tractor is just about empty, so before we do any more work, I'm going to go ahead and drop some number 2 red off-road diesel into it. It does weigh a few pounds. Can you see the red color? Mm-hmm. Off-road diesel is colored red to identify the fact that it is off-road, and off-road diesel doesn't have road tax on it, and so it's illegal to run this stuff in diesel cars and trucks, but it is okay to use it in tractors and heavy equipment. This is the fuel filter here, and what it does is it not only filters the fuel, but it also traps out any water. So if any water gets in there, it'll sink to the bottom. And there's a little indicator disc in here, and if there gets to be enough water in it, the disc will rise. But you can also see the water in the bottom, and right now it looks really good. It also serves as the fuel shutoff for the tractor. So I know it's not restoration, but hey, we do a lot of stuff around here. So we had an interesting turn of events. I had a laser set up over here, and I was trying to mark the stakes, and it is so dim, the thing just barely will show. My next door neighbor showed up. Roy loaned me this, and this is a elevation measuring tool. I'm not exactly sure what they call it, but on top of the tractor bucket over there, we're throwing a laser beam around at 360-degree arcs, I guess. And what this does is it picks it up, and it'll tell you what the elevation is. What I'm going to do is I got stakes in the ground, and they're at no particular elevation. So what I'll do is I'll bring this up until I get a steady tone, and then we'll mark a line on the stake with a Sharpie at, alongside the bottom edge of this thing here. And what that'll do is it'll give us a measurable baseline on every single stake. And then from there, all we have to do is just measure X number of inches down, put our string across, and we're good to go. I'm slowly lifting this up, and it's going to start beeping slowly. Okay, as I pull it up, it'll start beeping. Okay, right there. Whoop, hold on. We're looking for the steady tone. Go ahead. Okay, perfect. There's one. Now we'll. Really loud. Yes, it is very loud. Well, these are made to be used around construction sites, and you got stuff going on, and right. That way you can still hear it. All right, we'll do the same thing here. I think your head is blocking it.
Let me get on this other side then.
You protect your eyes. Right there.
Okay.
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 It's super sensitive. Sometimes it goes right from the slow beep immediately to the solid tone. But the solid tone means that you've intercepted the line. Now, it does have a neat feature here that it'll actually point in the direction that you need to raise it or lower it, but it's so close to the ground that I can't see it. We'll use our ears. That was quick and easy. So what we have now are several stakes in the ground. Each stake has a line on it, and that line represents the elevation where the laser beam strikes it. Now, the laser leveling tool is preset to where it's level. So it's level this direction and it's level this direction. Now, that's not very useful by itself for laying bricks. But what it does do is it gives us a common elevation point all the way down this thing. And once we decide where those bricks are supposed to be elevation-wise, all we have to do is just measure from that line down, and we know where our brick should be, and that's where we'll put our string. So because we know that this is the high point, and that it slopes down to there, and then it becomes relatively flat until it reaches the other end and then takes a nosedive. What we're going to do is we're going to start with minimum joints here. We will diverge across 3 different layers of mortar until we reach this point, and then we're going to hold that steady all the way around across 3 different mortar layers. Hold it steady until we get over to here, And then that back corner there will continue to diverge a little bit more just to bring it up level. And that should take care of everything and bring it to where we want it to be. So how did we get to that point? Well, we had a lot of measurements, a lot of complicated math. Just, you know, we used levels and tape measures, and I'm not going to get into all the details of it because it would just make your eyes glaze over, I'm sure. But anyhow, we managed to figure it out. We drove screws in to where the strings need to be. So the next thing we'll do is go ahead and string this up. Okay, that stake has nothing on it, so we'll just bypass it. We'll come over here, and I want to keep it tight, and then I'm going to go around the nail a couple of times. We'll pick it back up. I want to keep some tension on it now. Come over here, and the important part is keeping tension. We'll let that come down a bit. We'll come over here. Keep tension on it, do a couple of wraps. My string's in place. I'm going to take a long level and just check it, just to see where it's at. This one here is fairly level, which is what I would expect. So is that.
We are having a very hard time with this at the moment. It's a lot of stress because this is going to be able to be seen, and we need to get it as level as possible without adding too much mortar. And you can see over there on the other side, there's quite a bit of mortar there. It's not level yet. We'll have to wait for the next row to level it out. Very time consuming and a lot more detail work. I think the other side we'll do a little bit differently so that it is more level to start with. Making progress.
Yes.
It's leveling out a lot easier. That beginning though was really hard and stressful.
All right, guys, I want to show you something real quick. Let me just put the mortar down here and get it started. What I'm going to show you is how to level a brick. Butter it up real quick. Maybe a little more there. Okay, so I go ahead and I push the brick in place like I always do. And I want to make sure that it's in line with all of these and that string right there. So I got that going. I'm going to tap the brick into position. I want some squeeze out here in the joint. See that? So see how it's squeezing out? Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and tap this down because I want it to line up with this string right here. And we're actually getting closer to the point where we don't need quite so much mortar because the bricks are headed uphill. Now, here's what I wanted to show you. So if you come and look over my shoulder real quick, I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, see the bubble right there? It's actually pretty good on this one. A lot of times the bubble will be kicked off to one side or the other, but the way that I get the bubble to move is I tap on the side where the bubble is. So if it's over here on the right, which it kind of is a little bit, I'm going to tap on the right-hand side and chase the bubble away. See that? See how it moved? It didn't take much on that brick. Sometimes I have to tap a few times to get that to go, but that's how I get the bubble to move. So let me do one more just so I can illustrate this. Okay, if you see the bubble is kicked out to the left-hand side here, I'm going to go ahead and tap on the left-hand side and chase the bubble away. Oops, let's not break the level. Okay, so there's the bubble inside the marks, and that's what we want to see. Well, folks, I made a rookie mistake yesterday. When you're done laying bricks for the night, you're supposed to take your trowel and knock the last little bit off the bricks so that when you come back you can lay brand new mortar in there. But I didn't do that, and now I've got this hardened mortar, and I'm going to try to knock it out of here with just a couple of wraps and see how it goes. I'm just hoping that a couple of gentle love taps here will be enough to fracture that mortar out of there. Looks like it's responding. Oh yeah, there we go, there we go. Oh yeah. Okay, that's good. That's very good. Yeah. Okay, that's what I was hoping for. I find that bricklaying is very enjoyable. Once you get your lines laid out and you know where the bricks are supposed to go, then the rest is easy. I'm trying to recover the mortar wherever I can. It's so close to the soil that a lot of it falls in, and that's just waste. And we try to avoid it, but sometimes we can't. This morning when we came out, we had a nasty surprise because the rain that came down last night softened up the soil and our strings were under tension. And so with the soft soil, all of a sudden our stakes just started to do this. That makes the string sag. Well, we can't have that. So we had to pull our stakes back true and then jam rocks down inside there to hold it in position. And then finally we were able to recalibrate our string and make sure that they were level properly. Now that we have 3 courses of bricks laid, it's time to go reset all of our stakes and our markers. So, armed with the correct equipment, we're going to do a much better job on this course, I believe. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this laser leveler all calibrated. These things will cause vision damage because they're shining a laser beam and they're rotating at a rapid rate. Never look into it. And so as I'm doing this, the machine is turned off. So if I can draw your attention to the bubble level, I'm going to just start dialing this in because I want it to be absolutely level before we start. So right about there is good. Now that takes care of this dimension, but now we need to take care of this dimension. All right, let's get this side dialed in. There's the bubble coming to life. And right about there looks perfect. And I'm coming back over to double check the other side because it could possibly have moved, and it did. So it's kind of an iterative process. You just dial it, check the other side, dial it too, Go around a couple of times in that. Looked like a mosquito. Whenever we lay bricks, it's really important that we have a string line that we can follow. Otherwise, you're going to get a roller coaster effect as you go down. What we're going to do is, first of all, take the string and all the screws out. All right, we mentioned earlier that some of these stakes had moved because of a rainstorm and that the soil got soft. So I'm going around looking for ones that are misaligned. Loose, like that. And then just pounding them in deeper. In the interest of scientific accuracy, we're going to go around and measure the elevation where every single stake is. Jeannie will be acting as the scribe today and keeping track of those. So I'm going to start over here, and we think that may be the high point, or that right there by the drain pipe could be the high point, but we're not sure, so we'll find out. After taking all the measurement points all the way around here, we determined that that isn't the highest point, but that end down there, which was the high point last time, still holds the title of high point. So that's the place that we'll use as our reference point. Now, we're going around here and striking a laser line again. And as soon as I intercept the laser, right there. So Jeannie will mark that.
Okay.
With the laser beam, we were able to strike a line on every single stake all the way around the corner. And that means that every single line on every single stake is at exactly the same elevation. Even though we can't see around the corner, the laser beam can. So we know that that's good. Now, we have our brick with mortar at 2.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is measure this, and I measured this out at 7 1/4. I subtract 2.5 for the brick with mortar, and I'm left with 4 3/4 inches. So what we'll do now is we'll measure 4 3/4 inches from this line down, and that's where we'll put our screw. We'll do that at every single stake, and then we'll run our string around, and we should have a perfect reference line all the way around the corner. We're out here in the cool of the morning trying to get a head start on things, and things are not going well. So we came out and did a bunch of measurements to see where the string is in relation to the top of the bricks. Down there it's perfect, because that's our control point. But as we come down around here, we start to deviate just a little bit. It starts to get wider, the gap, and then it comes around the curve, and we've always known that's a low point. Right there we have 2.5 inches gap. Over here we have a 5-inch gap. There is no way that we can make up 2.5 inches of mortar joints in that small of a span. So here's what we're going to do. We're taking a page out of our previous playbook, and we're going to keep this straight on the level, clear to that point, and then from there we'll lower the string by 1/4 inch here, and then as we come around here we'll lower it another 1/4 inch, and then we'll maintain that all the way down to the end. And what that will do is it'll allow the brickwork to have a slight downslope as we go this direction, but it will also bring it up a little more. So with each successive layer, that end becomes a little higher, and a little higher, and a little closer to being accurate and level. So we're thinking maybe 3, maybe 4 layers of bricks in addition to what we've laid here should make a nice brick planter. So that's where we're at now, and I'm going to go ahead and start moving things. Okay, now that that's all reset, I'm going to go ahead and just start reattaching the string. The birds are really active this morning. We got the strings put up. One thing we've learned from this whole process is the importance of elevation control. Anytime you're doing any kind of geo work involving soil and land, you've got to know your elevations, and that point was driven home to us very, very clearly, and now we're paying the price for it, but we're going to get this under control and get it worked out. So the string is set at an elevation which is going to decrease the amount of downslope gradually over the next few courses, and hopefully we'll end up level or close to level by the time we're done. Now, on the next side over there, when we do that, we do have the benefit of elevation control, and we'll be much more careful about how we set our foundations up, and then hopefully we don't have this problem again.
Well, this video is getting long enough, so we're going to cut it here, and we're going to continue the next video with more work. We'll get the brickwork done. Thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.